Our April 1st election had the highest turnout for a Supreme Court election in Wisconsin history, resulting in liberals maintaining their majority on the state's high court.
Our State Capitol Bureau Chief Vanessa Kelson gives us takeaways from yesterday.
2.4 million people voted in Wisconsin's April election, and Susan Crawford won the spot on the Wisconsin Supreme Court by a 10-point margin, according to unofficial results.
That is a 40% increase in turnout. And that's just an extraordinary number.
Associate political science professor Anthony Chergosky says Crawford's margin of victory stands out in a state known for its close races.
The involvement of Musk in this campaign completely transformed what happened and had a significant influence on the outcome of the election.
Democrats are calling this election a referendum on President Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
In the November 2024 election, we saw basically everywhere in Wisconsin shift towards the Republican Party. And in this election, we saw basically everywhere in Wisconsin shift towards the Democratic Party.
After Schimmel's loss, I caught up with conservative Justice Rebecca Bradley at his watch party.
I'm really personally and professionally disappointed that Judge Schimmel lost to Judge Crawford. I think it's going to result in terrible consequences for the state of Wisconsin.
Chergosky's reaction to the clip?
Those were blunt words, and they could be indicative of the type of tone we might see on the Supreme Court moving forward.
Conservative Justice Rebecca Bradley's seat is up for election in 2026. Another conservative seat is up for election in 2027, and a liberal seat is up for election in 2028. But for now, Susan Crawford is expected to be sworn into the Wisconsin Supreme Court in August. From the Wisconsin State Capitol, Vanessa Kelson.